Right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening. Thank you so much for coming down. We were just, the GPs and I were just chatting very quickly about what a wonderful turnout it is tonight. It was the same at Townsville on Monday, and I think that shows how obviously important the medical practice is to the community here, and hopefully this is a very positive step for everyone in terms of the communication they feel that is coming from the medical practice. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Phil Scoble. I'm working with the medical practice at the moment to try and aid communication with the community in any way possible. So if you look around, you will see a couple of cameras. That's part of this. So we're trying to use any ways that we can to try and bring... Oh, we've got some more people coming in the back. They're fantastic. To aid communication. So every second of both of these meetings will be available, hopefully very soon, on the internet, completely unedited. So anyone, if they couldn't make it tonight or were doing other things, can view this meeting and see what was asked and see the responses. Everything that the medical practice does from now on hopefully is going to be done with an air of openness, with a view to communicating what is happening. If anything is changing, if anything new is coming in, if there's any problems, they're looking to try and communicate with you guys so you can give your feedback and help them provide a better practice every day of every year. What we're going to start off with, a short 25 minutes, he said, looking hopefully, no, half an hour maybe of presentations using this here. So if you can't see, please do let us know and try and come a little bit further forward perhaps. From the three doctors, looking at what the medical practice is, where it's come from, and a little bit about where it might be going, what changes might be coming in, which I'm sure you'll be very interested in, considering the news that's been going on recently about the health service. Just to introduce here, we have Doctors Graham Lockerbie, Andrew Aaron Lewis, and Adam Morris, who are going to be doing the presentation. We have other GPs here as well today. What we will be asking at the end, just warn you now, we've got some forms that if you could put your name and either an email or a home address on so that we can actually start communicating with you through a monthly newsletter to keep you updated, that would be very much appreciated. And we've got Kathy down there who's going to be collecting them at the end. After the presentations, there will be an opportunity for you to ask questions and express any views that you have, and the doctors here will try as best they can to answer your questions honestly and fully. When we get to that point, there are some simple things. I will need to repeat the question so that people watching the video later on will know what the question was, but I'm sure that will become clear later. And without much further ado, I'd like to introduce Graham Locke.
Thanks, Phil. Firstly, welcome everybody. I'm assuming everybody can see. If I stand here, can everybody still see the screen? Otherwise, I'm...
Step so you can, because that mic is live. So if you can just...
Right.
That's it.
Can you hear me now?
Big and loud.
Can you hear me now? Yes. Right. Okay, so I'm going to have to try and keep it at this level, which means these poor people in the front row are probably going to be stone deaf by the end of the evening. What we're going to do, 3 short presentations. I'm going to start off first setting the scene, telling you roughly what the practice does, what the practice is, and then Adam's going to give a little sort of talk at the end about the future, and Andrew's seamlessly going to provide a link between the two presentations. So I think what we'll do, there's some facts and figures here which I'm hoping you will be interested in. I think you might be surprised by some of the figures, some of the facts, and there will be plenty of time for questions about all this later, because as Phil said, there is an awful lot in the press at the moment about the changes that are going to happen in general practice, and a lot of these facts and figures are semi-related to that. Okay, if we could have the first slide, please. So the first thing is, well, what are we? Okay. People always assume that GPs are employees in the NHS. We're not. Okay. We're not NHS employees. We are independent contractors with the NHS. And there are two sorts of contractor to the NHS. There's GMS. There's lots of three-letter acronyms in this, by the way. The health service loves three-letter acronyms. So GMS, which is General Medical Services Contracts. And then there's PMS, which is Personal Medical Services Contracts. And we're a PMS contractor. Okay? It's a slightly more modern version of contract to the old-fashioned GMS contract. For that contract, we are given a chunk of money, and £62.38 per patient is what we are given by the health service for looking after you lot. Okay? That's the amount of money we've got. That's what's in our contract. It's not a lot of money. It might sound like it, but in terms of where we are in Devon, our funding is the 90th lowest out of 102 practices in Devon for providing that service. And out of that fund, we have to find staff costs, which for our practice add up to £365,100, which again, you might be slightly surprised at. You might have thought it was a bit less than that. Drugs costs, and those are costs, not drugs that we prescribe, but drugs that we buy in and administer to patients on the premises, of £45,000. And the real biggie is what we call our prescribing budget, which is a separate budget that's given by the health service, not paid to the practice, but it's there for us to use. And we have a running total through the year as we run through our prescribing budget. We have to live within that. That's what, every time we write you a prescription, the amount of money that we spend is costed out and taken off that budget there. Okay, next slide, please. In essence, the contract is something like 265 pages long. It is incredibly convoluted and drafted by Department of Health lawyers and looked at by independent lawyers employed by the BMA. But these are the two main principles in it. We should treat any person. We should try and maintain the health of our population. So we've got to try and get everybody to stop smoking, lose weight, exercise, good diets, all that sort of thing, maintain the health of our population, and probably one of the most important things, provide equitable and fair access to people. Okay, next slide. So what do you get for that money? For your £62.38, what do you get? Well, there are 7 GP partners in the practice and 1 salary GP. So you've got 8 doctors. Because they work part-time, that adds up to 6.75 whole-time equivalents, W2Ts, another 3-letter acronym. So you've got 6.75 full-time GPs in the practice, provided by 8 doctors. We've got 70 hours of nursing time, 46 hours of HCA, another 3-letter acronym, that's healthcare assistant. HCAs are the girls who take the blood, who do the ECGs, who do the blowing tests, all sorts of tasks within the practice. And we've got 40 HCAs, and we have a coming up which will sort of explain where they've come from and where we might be going with them. And reception and admin time, 430.5 hours. Okay. What we provide basically are a whole series of skills which are actually way above the level that is expected in a GMS or a PMS contract. Okay? So as well as being just your average GPs, we provide expertise in female and reproductive medicine. So our female doctors provide all sorts of services, putting in contraceptive implants, putting in coils, all sorts of things which you may think are actually standard, but doesn't happen in many parts of Britain. So they are extra services that we provide within our contract. Sexual health screening and services. We've got expertise in chronic respiratory illness. I'm sure lots of you will have been to see our asthma nurses, had fairly convoluted blowing tests done. Diabetes, again, most GPs in Britain don't provide the range of diabetes expertise that we provide. There are lots of practices in Britain where if you've got a problem with diabetes, you're just sent to see the consultant, and you make that journey to go and see a consultant. It's not dealt with in-house. And dermatology. Okay. What you won't find in many other practices, and these are the things that we really excel in. We've got Andrew, who's an assistant director in the postgraduate deanery, which is the body that provides educational experience for postgraduate doctors and helps train young doctors and turn them into fully fledged GPs. And obviously there's a big link in there to the Peninsula Medical School. I'm not going to steal Andrew's presentation, so I won't talk about that. We've got Tony Anderson, who is what they call a GPWSI. That's a general practitioner with a special interest, otherwise known in the health service as gypsies. So Tony's a gypsy in ear, nose and throat medicine. And I'm sure, again, some of you in the audience will have used his skills. And Tony's got a diploma in head and neck surgery. He provides a range of expertise, which frankly, I think probably only 3 other GPs in Devon have got. We've also got a gypsy in cardiology in Adam Morris, who again has a postgraduate diploma in cardiology and provides services for our practice so that patients don't have to go to Torbay Hospital, see consultants for a 10-minute consultation. It can all be done in the surgery. And I probably ought to point out at this stage that we're now also providing services in ENT, and we hope we're about to start providing service in cardiology to patients from other practices, because that range of skills is so rare that everybody wants a slice of that cake. And we've got GP commissioning at a senior level. For those of you that don't know, I've been a commissioner of what they call health services. That means purchasing health services on behalf of the patients in Devon for quite some time now. And I've been through the whole gamut of health reorganisations, something like 5 of them in the last 20 years, all the way from family practitioner committees right through the full spectrum and now into GP commissioning. And I can absolutely assure you, you will not find this combination in any other practice in Devon. We are unique. Okay, next one, please. Give you a rough idea of what we provide in the way of appointments. Can you see those numbers there or not? What you can see in the blue at the top there, 2007 in the middle column is the figure from the Office of National Statistics for GP consultations, nurse consultations, and other nurse consultations, and then a total. And that's for 2007 for an average size practice, 9,000 patients. Well, we've got 8,400 patients, and you can see that in 2007 we were providing more than national average GP consultations. We were providing slightly less nurse consultations, but more than made up for that by these ladies called HCAs, and they are all ladies in our practice, although there's no reason why that needs to be the case. And what the really interesting one here for me is to point out the HCA column starts at 5,655 in 2006, and we're now up at 10,819, so doubled in 5 years. And that's about, again, taking more and more of the services that used to be done just in hospital, some of the anticoagulation monitoring, finger pricks for warfarin tests, all used to happen in hospital. Now all of that's actually handled out in the community. I probably ought to point out, if you're looking at that very last cell there for GP consultations, that the reason for that drop is that the software that we use to count GP consultations doesn't take locum appointments, GP locums, that's doctors who stand in for us when we're off, into account. And we had an issue with long-term illness of one of our partners in 2010, which is why, in theory, you can add another 7th on there, and you'd be nearer the mark.